What's going on, traders? We got a lot to talk about. What a crazy day. We got to talk about it. You're not going to want to miss this, so let's get straight into it. So, right now we're looking at the Triple Q's daily time frame, and we've been talking about these rising wedge patterns for quite some time, and we're finally starting to see these patterns play out. This is why they're some of my favorite patterns, because they're just so predictable and so easy to trade. We see it on the Triple Q's, we saw it on the NQ, we saw it on Nvidia, where we're seeing these rising wedge patterns form across the board. Now, if you're new to trading or new to charting, you should know that rising wedge patterns are very strong bearish patterns. I mean, you see it here. We reject here, we reject it here, we reject it here, we reject it once again at around 501.5, 502 range, and then we started to see that breakdown, and now we're breaking below the rising wedge pattern, therefore confirming that this is an actual rising wedge pattern. And so we broke below that 490, 489 level, which we talked about in the last video, where I said if we do get below 490, 485, 489, we're heading towards 485. And now it looks like we had the potential to even head lower, where we could see a move towards about 480. And there's another gap that needs to be filled here at around that 480 area, 480, 482, give or take. So that's what I'm looking at right now, where we could see more downside. Now, what I will say is that at some point in time, we need to clear out this area. So I do imagine that pretty soon, maybe elections, prior to elections, maybe we start pricing in elections or pricing in Jerome Powell next week, where we see potentially a bounce from this point, or between 480, 485, where we see a bounce around this area here, and we start to clear this area out and fill this gap at around 496, 497 before we see that next drop down. And so that's what I'm looking at. So either we continue to head down tomorrow, which is very much possible given what happened on Apple earnings, or we immediately bounce from here, and pretty much bears get trapped in this area, and we immediately bounce, we head towards that gap fill at 496, because we pretty much left this area, just left and never looked back. So we fill this gap, and then we start to head further down. So that's the potential move that I am looking at in the short term future. So your key levels here is to watch for a potential bounce off 485, and if we don't see that bounce off 485, and if we do continue lower, I will watch for 480. Around 480, 477 is about your lowest point, where we could potentially see some type of dead cat bounce, clear out this area, and then start to see it move further down. Now, what's interesting here is not the triple Qs, the NQ. The NQ has not broken this rising wedge, which I find very interesting. And this is why I always encourage to watch both the futures and the ETFs, because one can tell you, or one, if not both, can tell you if you're looking at a potential trap. And so what do we talk about in our last few videos? We talked about these areas of turbulence, and we have not broken below this area on NQ. We're still within the rising wedge as well, and we haven't given up this 20K level as well. So very interesting here. Now, what I did say in the last video is that we're going to look at a move towards 20,200, and we broke below 20,200. So either we break back above that 20,200 level and clear out this area at around 20,500, which will probably be that gap fill on the triple Qs that we were just talking about at around 496, and do one of these moves, or we see some type of short-term bounce in the morning tomorrow and hit that 20,200 level, and then start to break down all over again. And I'm looking at a move towards 19,600, 19,500. Regardless of what happens, I still think that for a bigger drop is coming towards that 19,600, 19,500 target. And what's ironic about this is there is a gap around this area as well that needs to be filled. So regardless of, and so my point here is that whether you see upside or not, take it with a grain of salt. Okay, if you see any upside, take it with a grain of salt. I don't think the market is going to quite fully recover just yet. Maybe elections will cause it, but right now, if we do see some type of dead cat bounce tomorrow, or some type of recovery phase tomorrow, between tomorrow and maybe even Monday, I would take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't jump, for joy or anything like that, and assume that the market is back. I think it's just going to be short-lived, and then we start to break down even further, heading into elections and even Jerome Powell. And then we'll have to see what happens from there. So very, very interesting movement right now. And it's very interesting that the NQ is still holding this rising wedge pattern and hasn't broken down the same way that the triple Qs have. So something to really pay attention to here. Again, as if until NQ clears out this area, I'm not like hardcore bearish, but I do still think that at some point in time we have to head towards that 19,600 and 19,500 range and retest that area. So this area right here, we talk about this all the time. We have to break below this area for me to be really like super bearish. But right now, there is a possibility for another bounce. We start clearing out that area at around 20,500, between 20,200, 20,500, and then we start to see a break down further where we really start to clear these gaps out. Because it's very surprising how long we kept these gaps open on the futures. Usually you don't see that. You see it on the ETS, but you don't really see gaps be left open for too long on the futures. So very interesting there. So ES, we're talking about the ES, and again, we're still within this area of turbulence where we need to break down. Now, it looks like we're attempting to do that on the daily time frame, but we're just not quite below these guys yet. We haven't stopped them out of their position. So I would say at around 5,700 is where you really want to see that move. We talked about the target to the downside at around 5,650, where I think that's where we're heading sometime in the short-term future, and we start to feel this gap right here. I mean, you see it here. We rejected all in this area right here. We attempted to make some type of bounce here. We actually gapped up here, but you guys see how strong this level is right here at around that 5,650, 5,670 range. So we need to break below these guys still. So there's very much potential for a bounce tomorrow, or some type of dead cat bounce recovery phase tomorrow, and then we feel the gap to the upside at around 5,850, and then we start to head lower from that point on, right? So that's what I'm looking at in regards to the ES. Overall, the point here is that I'm expecting more downside. So if I didn't make that clear, hopefully it is clear. And so we want to look at the SPY. And ES, SPY, essentially the same thing, but regardless, we want to get, if some people just trade the SPY, some people just focus on the SPY, others just focus on the future. So I just want to get both of them out the way real quick. And so the SPY, we're looking at a move towards 564. 564, I mean, you guys see it here. You bounced here, you bounced here, you rejected here, you rejected here, you rejected here. So very tough level at around 564. So if we do see more downside heading into tomorrow, I think it's just going to be a very quick downwards move, and then we start to see some type of recovery, because I do imagine a lot of stocks, especially stocks like Apple, are very oversold right now. So I do think we're going to recover and possibly either retest about 575, 574 on the SPY, or we start to feel that gap at around 580 before we see a move further down on the SPY. And so that's what I'm looking at in regards to the SPY. If we break above, I would say if we break above 575, then we're looking at a move to 580. But right now, I'm looking at a downwards move to 564. Bounce off there, possible retest of 574, 575, and then if we break above 575, then we're looking at a gap fill at around 580, and then we reject from there. So that's what I'm looking at in regards to the SPY. So let's talk about these earnings that just happened. And first off, congratulations to Discord members. We hit on all earnings plays today. I told you guys Amazon I was absolutely bullish on for earnings. I said I'm like extremely confident with Amazon. Apple, we did 230 puts on Apple for their earnings. I did alert to close before the actual earnings report, but if you stayed in it, congratulations. And then we did 23 calls for Intel. Intel's, we got in at around 2150, 21.5, which is pretty much support for Intel. And yeah, so we did 23 calls for Intel. We did 185 calls in the money calls for Amazon, and then we did 230 puts for Apple. So if you want access to plays like this, our earnings plays, feel free to join the Discord. Discord link is in the description below. Not only that, but our Discord bot alerted 25 calls, 25 strike calls for November 15th, right before, well, not right before close, but around 1:43 p.m. Eastern time. So that was a good sign that we should be in calls for Intel. And then we had more data come in. We had more data come in for like Amazon, where Amazon, a lot of volume was coming in for Amazon calls. Here is one of the data flows where we see Intel have a bunch of calls come in for November 15th with a strike of 23. So that's what prompted me, or one of the reasons I was prompted to alert the Discord that we're going to jump into those calls. And then Amazon beat earnings. So yeah, we are in the money for all our earnings plays today. So again, if you want access to these types of plays, obviously they're lottery plays, but we hit on all three today. So very happy with that. I'm sure Discord members are happy with that. So let's hope that all of them hold tomorrow morning. It's looking good so far for all of them. Maybe Intel's a little sketchy, but I think Intel's going to continue to head higher once the market is done doing its little dip, and then we see a pump after that. So that's what I'm looking at, or that's what I want to talk about real quick. So we're looking at Apple. So Apple, yeah. So there's no surprises there. Apple just tanked for its earnings. I'm really not surprised. Now, what's interesting about Apple here is that we go to, where is it? We pull up the RSI, and we are very overbought here for Apple, like extremely overbought. 4 hour, I mean, it doesn't matter the time frame. You can look at the 4 hour, you can look at the 3 hour. Very oversold. I said overbought, didn't I? You're very oversold on like every single time frame. Every single time frame, you're oversold on Apple. So this leads me to believe that there is going to be some type of dead cat bounce between tomorrow and Monday, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But yeah, we're very oversold on Apple, and so what I'm looking for in regards to Apple, and I even said this in the Discord as well, I'm looking for a move back to 230 real quick. And then I'm going to definitely load up on puts. I think Apple is going to, if Apple does bounce from this point on, so let's say Apple, market opens, we get one little drop in, bears get trapped, and then we start to see the market rally all over again back to the upside or get a dead cat bounce. I'm looking at a move towards 230, about 230, 233, and then I am putting the house on puts. I think Apple is going to head much lower. I think it's going to head towards at least 214 if it doesn't do it in the morning right away. I think if Apple bounces from this point on, or even if it sees a little bit more downside, maybe towards 220, retest 220, 219, and from there it bounces, I'm looking for puts at around 230, 230, 233, and then I'm going to pretty much just I'm going to enjoy those puts all the way back down to 214. So I'm kind of hoping that Apple sees 214 in the morning, but at the same time I'm not, because I think that would be a beautiful play to just jump into 230. Jump into puts at 230, because this whole area needs to be cleared out. There's just an empty void right here. Hopefully you guys can see this. I mean, the math is all here, guys. We're very oversold on. I just showed you 4 time frames where we're oversold on Apple. Very oversold. If you need an example on what happens when Apple is oversold, you got a bounce right here, just a little bounce right here, nothing too crazy. This is the 4 hour time frame, so I guess it wouldn't be a little bounce, but you bounce from 220 to about 225. Here you're oversold. You had a bullish divergence. So down here you had a bullish divergence, and look what happened. So really hoping for that move to the upside. We clear out this oversold territory, and then I'm going to alert to the Discord that we're jumping into puts at 230, 233, and I think Apple's just going to tank from that point on. It has no incentive. I mean, the earnings tells you everything you need to know. It has no incentive of going higher. It really doesn't. Okay. I think no one's surprised by that. Apple missed on everything but iPhones for its earnings. Everything but iPhones. So it has no incentive to go higher or make new highs. So 230, I'm really hoping for that retest of 230, 233 range. We get that, I'm putting a house on puts. So we'll see. So that's what I'm looking at in regards to Apple. At this next target, if it stays below 22.5, then it's possible that this can just head straight to 214 from there. So if we don't see some type of recovery, I mean, after hours is currently at 22.5, but it's just after hours. We'll have to see. But if it reclaims 22.5, then I think it's going to start heading back towards at least 225, and then after that, you're looking at a move back to the 230s range. Amazon. Congratulations to Discord members who took Amazon. Another killer play that we got in on. And what prompted me to get into Amazon calls, I mean, we've been confident about Amazon all week, guys. I mean, it should be I talked about this for the past few videos, especially our earnings videos, as well, where we did Amazon 185 calls for tomorrow, I believe. Even I want to say, I don't think I showed it in here, but right here, our AI bot alerted 230 puts for November 22nd, and like immediately once this was alerted, Apple started to drop, and then it continued to drop for its earnings. So that's what prompted us to jump into this play, and then not only that, but I checked the options flow to make sure this play was actually valid. So anytime, if you're in the Discord, anytime the bot alerts something, I check everything. I make sure that it makes sense. Okay, so if it makes sense and I alert it, well, if I alert it, then it makes sense. Okay, so that's what I was looking at for Apple, and then Amazon. Again, the AI bot didn't alert. Well, actually, the AI bot did alert Amazon, but it alerted Amazon like 2 weeks ago. It alerted like 220 calls for next year. So we're in those calls as well. So we're in 220 calls, and then we jumped into about 185 calls as well. And yeah, so Amazon was another killer play there. So again, join the Discord if you want action like that. So we let's get rid of this real quick. So right now we're pretty much, as long as I told the Discord, as long as Amazon stays above 195.6, this thing is bullish, absolutely bullish, and I think it can see the 200s once again, especially if we're talking about that dead cat bounce. If we do get that dead cat bounce between tomorrow and Monday, Amazon is just going to, I think it's going to blow past 200 and easily at least see 210, minimum 210, 210, 205, we'll say 205 minimum. Okay, so I mean, you have it here. You just kept making higher lows. You had low here, higher low here, higher low here, and then you made somewhat of a higher high here, and but now you finally got that higher high coming in. And so if we can clear out that 201 area right here, this turbulence, yeah, Amazon's going to skyrocket at that point. So that's what I'm looking at for Amazon. Yeah, this was just a no-brainer. I had no doubt in my mind that Amazon was just not was going to beat. I truly believed Amazon was going to beat. So that's what we're looking at. So let's look at Bitcoin real quick now. I haven't plotted Bitcoin today. Bitcoin pretty much hit the top of the supply and demand zone. If it gets back below 69K, you are bearish, people. You're bearish. So that's really all I have to say about Bitcoin. 69K was, and then after that, you're looking at a move to 68,500. After that, you're cooked. Okay, you're cooked. You really want to see us, if you really want to be bearish on Bitcoin, you want to see 67K get cleared, and then you're just pretty much a liquid from that point on. But regardless, if Bitcoin gets below 69K, I just think it's done for. It pretty much hit previous highs. It gave up those previous highs. You had your Coinbase earnings. You had, I think, MSTR. No, I don't think MSTR, but you had Coinbase earnings. So I don't think Bitcoin has any incentive to go higher. And so we look at the IWM. We are cooking on our puts for IWM. We loaded up more puts. I told you guys in the last few videos that if IWM blesses you and sees 224, once again, you have to load up on puts. It's just a no-brainer. And we did that. We've been averaging in on IWM puts for like a month now, and we're up like 60% on the play. So congratulations to Discord members. I think this thing is going to continue to head lower. I'm looking at a target of about 214, 215 right here. We cleared 214. We're heading to the abyss. So yeah, not only that, but the Discord bot just continues to alert that whales are just jumping to these puts, and so we're just following the big money. We're following what the big guys do. Whether you believe market manipulation or not, always tell Discord members, always tell traders, join the manipulation. You can't beat it, join it. Simple as that. So that's what I'm looking for IWM. I think it's going to continue to drop. If it retests, it did this already today. We'll go down to the 4-hour time frame. It already did this today. But if it blesses you with another retest at around 220.7, 220.8, I'm going to say what I'm going to do. I'm going to average in more puts. Simple as that. You do what you want with that information. All right, so that's what I'm looking at for IWM. Google. This is going to be the last thing I go over. Google. Google's a no-brainer. Below 173, this thing is bearish. If it gets below 170, it's heading towards 164. Simple as that. All right. That's all I got for Google. Okay. The Google gets below 170. I would say 169 if you really want to be safe. Heading towards 164. Easy money. Simple as that. If it blesses you with a retest of 173, 173, and then after that you're looking at a move to 176. If it blesses you with either of those retests, I'm gonna tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add puts. You do what that want. You do what you want with that information. But yeah, Google, we absolutely killed this play as well. We did calls for earnings, ran up for earnings, and then we did puts once it hit the. We did puts right at open yesterday after its earnings. Boom, dropped almost immediately. Easy money. So that's all I have for this video. Overall, in conclusion, if we do get some type of bounce tomorrow, between tomorrow and Monday, I imagine it's going to be short-lived. Just pay attention to those key levels that we were talking about, and then I think we're going to continue to drop from that point on after we get possibly one more major bounce to the upside, really clear out those areas that we've been talking about, and then we start to see that drop come in. And that's it. So it could be buy the rumor, sell the news type of deal, where we just buy the rumor up into elections. Whoever gets elected, and then we see a sell-off. Simple as that. So that's what I'm looking for. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. Comment your thoughts below, whether you agree, disagree. Let me know if I missed something. Other than that, that's all I have. Until the next video, traders, you have a good one.